name is Sam, or Samuel Hugh. I am my job title is Management Associate in Ento, but really what I do is more head of operations. So I make sure that whatever needs to get done to ensure that the company makes money and is functioning on a day-to-day basis gets done. This means that what I do is communicating with suppliers, with potential buyers, people who either give it, especially our farmers, people who supply to us and people that we supply to, and also with our founder and CEO to make sure that everything is coordinated properly so that things happen, basically. Yeah. Ento has been running for about 3 years now, but we're still a relatively small company, so we are considered a startup. And that's what I do.
All right, thank you, Sam. Now, I think we can start going on with the questions, right, that we have prepared for us today. And the basic question that we have to ask is, could you explain what Ento does and how it was formed?
Sure. So Ento was formed by Kevin sometime in 2018. He left the legal profession and he went to Mexico for a while. And over there, he tried cricket tacos. And then he realized that the crickets kind of tasted like prawn or like lobster, right? So, especially when they're deep fried. So he did a bit of reading into insect protein and alternative meats. And he found the UN FAO, FAO being a Forestry and Agriculture Organization. They released an article in about 2013 talking about the potential of insect proteins as a solution for food and feed insecurity in the world. So following that, because he had always wanted to start a business, a Malaysian business which pioneered sustainable protein, he decided to kind of start Ento from then on.
I see. Thank you, Sam. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Ento basically produces alternative protein sources from insects, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Could you explain some of the sources of protein that they have in the market right now that Ento produces?
Right. Right now, we actually specialize, we only use cricket and black soldier fly larvae, which are farmed locally. And in terms of protein sources, both of these insects provide are protein sources, but cricket is comparatively higher. Rather, if we put up against the black soldier fly larvae, it's about 60 to 65% protein in weight. So for every 100 grams of cricket, you get about 60 to 65 grams of protein back. Whereas the black soldier fly larvae is much more higher in omega-3 fatty acids and other fatty acids. So that's a much better source of fat. Yeah. That would be the two, I guess, insects that we provide. And in terms of high protein, that's cricket.
Understood.
Mr. Sam, yeah. So back to the backstory for Entos. So you know that for startup culture in Malaysia is not that common as compared to like other countries. So I know that was it hard to form a team like for the startup for Entos, and also was it a challenge to bring people together?
Definitely. Firstly, because as far as sustainability awareness goes, right, Malaysia is fairly low on the list, globally speaking. So when Kevin was starting Ento, he was really up against a lot of inertia in terms of starting a startup in sustainable protein. So it was also a challenge to retain talent, meaning people will come in being interested, but because we already have so many players, and then we're also in the sustainable food market, and within that market we're specializing in insect protein, right, which is even more of a challenge. Higher disgust factor, lower acceptability. So this is like the niche of a niche. So not many people are interested in it, and some of the people who are interested in it may not want to work in this forever. Yeah. But in order to kind of retain talent and just kind of look for people, we kind of use some of the really typical methods you've heard of, word of mouth, LinkedIn, Job Street, and even just going to events and talking to people and seeing, whoever wanted to partner with us or jump on board.
So for now, how many people is in your team for this Ento?
Are the only 2 people managing Ento at the moment. Almost half the team left, really, actually more than half the team left. And right now it's Kevin and me who's running the show, really.
Oh, sorry for that, Mr. Sam. I think a lot of people also struggled during the pandemic.
No, yeah, so, it's okay.
I'm guessing that means the 2 of you have to juggle a lot of workload, or have to distribute area that Ento has to focus on with the 2-man show at present. What area is the most important to the business?
Resource allocation and next steps. With a lack of manpower, right? We're kind of up against, like, this is not something that we are looking at in terms of a 6-month view. We're looking at Ento with like 12-month, 24-month view, and we're thinking about where we can go and where we want to go in the future as well. What's sustainable to us as a business. So really, resource allocation and getting new ideas in is really challenging. So right now we've actually decided to stop B2C marketing and move all the way into B2B marketing, meaning we are looking for people who are manufacturers already, or buyers or suppliers to other industries, so that at least at the moment we don't have to deal with the challenge of marketing to the consumer. Yeah, that's one example of something that we've done so far. As you can imagine, putting yourself in a position of, like, if you don't have a lot of time or manpower or money to work with, it's quite critical to decide, what we want to put our time and money and effort into.
Speaking of, from our knowledge, actually, Ento had a failed Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
So could you explain what led to that failure and what alternative funding sources that Ento opted for afterwards?
Yeah. So the initial Kickstarter campaign wasn't successful because, as I already mentioned before, this is quite this is the niche inside the niche, especially in Malaysia. So the challenge we're up against is that people didn't really get the concept and the story that we were selling. And to add to that is that, they, through the webpage, they can't see the food or taste the food as well. So it's hard to sell an idea that you cannot imagine. And so, it was difficult to find, number one, potential partners, not to mention the public, to kind of understand, where we're coming from and what we're selling, what they're getting. Yeah. Oh yeah. So other alternative funding sources, right? What we did instead was that we went to events. We found angel investors. We were looking for venture capital, people who are looking to invest in the sustainability industry in Malaysia, or who want to kind of grow that market, right? So these were the people that we were looking for, and yeah, that's how we got our funding.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Now, just to recap, right, for this entire segment on the backstory of Ento, Ento basically sells alternative protein sources in the form of cricket and black soldier fly larvae products, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You have explained that you are doing this in a B2B manner at present.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's you don't have to deal with, of course, consumer acceptance and all the other issues related to personal preferences, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you wanted to say something, Sam?
Yeah, I wanted to say that that's not to say that we are stopping our B2C sales, because we still have our website, we still list on Shopee and Lazada. But in terms of where we're putting our money, time, and effort, we're not putting it into marketing to the customers. So for our social media, we've kind of slowed that down as well. And we're not as concerned right now about reaching the end consumer, because we know that at the end of the day, if we are successful in our B2B sales, our B2B marketing, it means that we are reaching the end consumer somewhere, but just through another business.
That sounds good, Sam. I think we can move on to the second segment of our interview under the banner of marketing strategies.
So speaking of, like you said, like it's really hard for people to like accept a product when they can't imagine it. So were there any other challenges that you faced as a team with Kevin for Ento on marketing the product itself, besides not being able to penetrate the market in terms of getting people to eat crickets?
With Ento, actually it took a lot of money to put into the end consumer marketing in Malaysia, because there is a issue that we see, but it's not a primary concern for them. Actually, that is the biggest hurdle, and might actually be the only hurdle, that they don't see the appeal of insect foods. So we're actually putting so much money into creating a story, a narrative for them to see and buy into. At the end of the day, that really is our biggest issue. If we have the end consumer who believes, they believe in the product, but they don't see a reason for switching to our product as opposed to any other alternative sources, plant-based meat, or even just going fully vegan, or resuming their current diet, their current expenditure and lifestyle, right? That's the biggest challenge that the product is up against, and well, our company. Yeah. Besides that, there are other tiny issues. I say tiny because with time, effort, like handling the legalization and following guidelines, not really a problem, because resources are out there, and even though there's not much education out there in Malaysia right now, right? With time, a bit of money, and like effort, right? It's very easy to solve that. Shipping overseas, getting approval overseas, not really that big of an issue. Just takes time and research. Yeah.
Sam, if I could ask a follow-up question, I wanted to know if, since you mentioned that it's difficult to sell a story that people don't really buy, I for one actually believe in the product. As I think biotechnology students, right, we know that it's not sustainable to keep farming cows and chickens and all that, because it does have a lot of environmental impact.
Yeah.
But could we know a bit about the customers that you were trying to target, the customers that you were trying to sell these stories to? Who were they?
Right off the bat, we realized that the only customers that are really interested in sustainability seem to be people in the urban and suburban areas in Malaysia. So that's basically like KL, right? So we're selling to customers who are in the M40 or T20 in terms of income, but not just because they're in a certain earning bracket, but because being in that earning bracket, they also happen to have education and exposure to environmental issues, to the narrative on sustainability. So they are more likely to be more interested in sustainability and implementing different changes in their lifestyle. Yeah, we will be selling to people who unfortunately at the moment mostly English educated or speak English as a first or second language. It just so happens that education and lots of the narrative and media marketing for environmental impact and sustainability tends to target that as well. Yeah. So we're not like Nestle, for example, where they have resources to actually put specifically into education so that they can already kind of handle that. So we're kind of going where, so with Nestle, they can actually afford to spend money on education, big companies like that, and educate in the local language in BM, educate in not just the bottom half of M40 and B40, because then you're creating a whole new sphere of education. Yeah. So we're going where the education is already there. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That's actually really interesting to see from that perspective, because honestly, I feel like it's kind of like almost impossible to penetrate a market where they don't know one thing is a problem. So when you mentioned about how Nestle can afford to bring education to the people, that's actually really cool, because like for small businesses like Ento, for example, like they have to find people who already have the education, which is
That's right.
also, yeah.
Yeah. And there are people out there looking for products like our products, which is why we still get sales, which is great. But the issue is, if right now our current model targets all of those people, we don't think so. We're trying to find, which is why we're trying B2B, so that at least if they have a market over there, that's not our market, we're reaching more of the end consumer that is already looking for these kind of products.
Understand from what you mentioned just now. So now Ento is focusing on B2B.
Yes.
For example, they will already have their customer base. So you just send your products to the business and then they will source it out to the customers.
Yes.
So any other strategies besides B2B? Any other strategies that you can share with us?
Strategies in terms of like, are you looking for like growing the market strategy, or are you looking for like
maybe like from like attracting new customers? Because Malaysian, yeah, from what have you mentioned just now, they are targeting those that who speak English and they have the knowledge base. But how about like new customers from other segments? Like how do you change their perspective on like food made from insects?
Yeah, that would be through events or exhibitions. So that's another strategy that we're employing. I just came back about, I think 2 weeks ago, was it? From a small event at University of Malaya in Rimba Ilmu Botanical Garden. So there's this social enterprise called UBI. And what they want to do is really educate people on what's happening to our environment, on environmental impact, on sustainability, right? So they invited us to go over there and just have a small knowledge sharing session. So over there, we're speaking in a mixed language, Malay and English. So that would be one avenue of us reaching, one example of us reaching a slightly different market segment. That's another strategy that we can employ, because it doesn't cost us that much to just drive there and share some products, give some free samples, compared to employing market specialists, employing social media executive, that kind of thing.
I have a follow-up question, like since you are also opting for B2B, like besides attracting new customers, of course you also want to make sure that you have loyalty from your existing customers, right?
Yeah.
So how do you like keep the loyalty of old customers as well as old businesses that you kind of work with? So because there are other companies that sell B2B powder crickets, such as from Thailand, from China. So how do you retain that loyalty?
Yeah. So because right now we're focusing on more of the B2B, more of a B2B business model. Right now, what we're doing to maintain that loyalty is basically maintaining our product standard. And we do have, deals like bundle deals or taster deals, which are basically like, if you order like 10 packets or more, or a different variety, that you get like a lower price. There are also things like offering 20% discounts if you tag us on Instagram, so meaning you follow us and all that. Yeah, strategies that you're already kind of familiar with, but we kind of do this so that people who buy from us and want to buy more from us have an incentive to do that. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you, Sam. Now, I think you've answered a lot of questions about how you market your product in this somewhat difficult field, right? You said you said it yourself. It's a niche of a niche.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not easy. But I'm also guessing that the production process is not necessarily any simpler, right? My first question is on the banner of production process.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that you face in the production of these crickets and black larvae flies?
Yeah. Really, it's finding the right people with the right expertise to do it at scale. So there are a lot of, actually right now in Malaysia, we already use the black soldier fly larvae for poultry feed and for aquaculture feed as well. So there are already farmers who farm black soldier fly larvae, but they may not be farming it for the purposes of human consumption, meaning that the feed that they give the larvae and the flies may not be suited for the human palate, because whatever you feed them, they will taste like. Same thing with the crickets, right? So maybe you've got farmer A who knows how to do BSF-L larvae, but because they're already doing so much for the for livestock farming, to transition over or to allocate another small lot to us with a specialized feed for us is not worth their time and their money. So maybe we want farmer B, for example, who knows how to do it and is willing to make that switch. Maybe they're already doing it at a small scale. So for them, it doesn't cost them that much, and it doesn't cost them that much in terms of time, money, and effort to kind of make that switch so that whatever they're feeding them is suited for human taste as well. Not many people in Malaysia right now also do cricket farming at scale. So meaning, we're ordering like 50 kilos or more. So there are not many people who kind of produce that many, that bulk amount. There are like small farmers, like they give you like 1 kilo or less. You will sell to pet shops or the pakcik in the, who sells the chicken feed or fish food like this. So yes, they'll have like crickets and newborns and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, right people, right expertise, and to do it at a fairly large amount.
So speaking of your production process, can you kind of run through the whole process and how it looks like for Ento?
Yeah, actually, our process is pretty simple because which is a benefit to our business, right? So big challenge heading towards consumer education and raising consumer acceptability, but actually the farming process, the production process, the whole production process is pretty simple because we already farm in Malaysia. So price wise, it's not an issue. We buy it from farmers, we roast it, and then we clean it, roast it, flavor it, package it, and then that's it. We sell it to the customers already. Nothing really too complicated, and that's really good for us.
Mr. Sam, on that note, right, before we move on to Beijing's question, so you basically tell these farmers, or you give them instructions on how to farm crickets and black soldier flies according to your needs, right?
Yes, that's right.
So do you have to visit these farmers and ensure that they follow the system, or how does that work?
If we will kind of visit them at the start if we hire them, right, just to make sure that everything's okay. But honestly, they're in like Samania, Negeri Sembilan. It's not worth it for us to kind of drive down monthly, even regularly. So it's kind of on a trust basis, and it's pretty simple for us to see if anything is going wrong anyway, because when they're sending us the product, which would be the crickets or the larvae, right, there's not much to hide really. If we wash the crickets and we find that 10% of the crickets are actually sand or other insects, it's really easy to just contact them and say like, hey, is there anything that we can do to kind of make sure that we get more crickets instead of just gravel, instead of just the other insects. Yeah. But we've got pretty trustworthy farmers anyway, and it's actually they have incentive to do it right and get it right, because there are not many people. Actually, I believe we are the first and only company right now that is doing insects for human consumption. So in terms of other competitors in Malaysia, at least, there are none. So the farmers have an incentive to get it right and to also work with us properly, so that they're giving us a good product.
And so back to the production process, I know like how does Ento decide on the flavor and also texture of the product? For example, you have the salted egg yolk and also the kimchi larvae and also the burger patty. Yeah. So did Ento actually did a trial and error, or you would like distribute some survey form before you decide on the flavor of those?
Got it. Because we lack resources, we focus on the D part of R&D. So we don't really allocate a lot of time and resources to doing the research, market survey or consumer survey. We do that because we want a good idea, a general idea of what is happening out there, what flavors people like, what textures people like, and what messages sell right now. So in terms of even the packaging design and the feel of the packaging, like what's really in trend right now. Just a bit of time doing that, and once we have a generally good idea, we just move straight on to trial and error. We are okay to make adjustments here and there, because we're not doing it at tons and tons, and our production isn't that scale, right? So with adjustments and learning from mistakes, it doesn't cost us that much compared to, say, I don't know if I can say that name here in the interview, compared to, say, Nestle or Jacobs, right? So they're producing at tons, correct? Meaning that every adjustment and mistake they make costs them thousands and thousands, because they're producing so much, and the production line is so streamlined that if they stop something, if they change something, it goes back to costing them a lot. So because we produce at smaller scale, it doesn't cost us that much to make adjustments, to make changes.
So meaning you produce in small amount and then you market first, and then you see the responses from the market, and then do some adjustment.
Yeah.
And also maybe also collect feedback from them.
Yeah, for sure. So our feedback, word of mouth. We also have our feedback line, right? hello@ento.my, Instagram. So these are avenues for our customers to give us feedback as well.
Okay. So Sam, so now I think we can move on to the last part, which is about the future plans. So we have read articles about like Ento is looking to break into foreign market as well. So can you run us through like what Ento plans to do in the future? Any new projects or new products?
Okay. Right now, the product that we are working on is called Ento Meat. So you'll be seeing on our website that we have a burger thing. So Ento Meat really is, we want it to be a meat replacement product, similar to Impossible Burger or Beyond Meat, right? And that is a cricket flour, soy protein mix, which the consumers can then fry up or oven bake into a meat patty or meatball, whatever shape that they want. That would be something that we're actually working on and wanting to put into exhibition, so that we're attracting investors, attracting buyers for the product as well. We are thinking of going to foreign markets, markets like Europe, UK, and the US, because the average consumer awareness of alt protein and alt meat products is much higher, and the acceptance of alt protein and alt meat products there is higher. So that's what we're kind of planning to do.
Do you think there'll be a shift in how consumers view alternative protein sources in the future? And if So why? What do you think will cause this shift?
Yeah. We think so. We believe so, which is why Ento was started in the beginning. The question is how soon and when. Because of, for example, because of the pandemic, right? We've got the prices, oil prices going up, which drives up prices of livestock as well. Not just the feed, but transporting it to the end consumer and putting it into the ground level market. So it looks like there are a few things that could happen. Maybe more than one thing is going to happen so that shift happens. Not sure if it's going to come suddenly, like another pandemic or another climate disaster, or just generally something happens to shift that consumer awareness and acceptance of proteins. Maybe one day with the lack of chicken or beef, or one day chicken becomes too expensive, and then suddenly everybody's like, you know what? There is also plant-based meat. There's also cricket protein and larvae protein.
That note, are you planning to venture into other alternative food sources besides crickets and larvae, such as spirulina? It's also like a school food.
Yeah. At the moment, no, not that we see. Ento wants to do insects, and we plan to stay in insects so that we can specialize in our niche. One of the reasons why we want to stay here, at least for the time being, is that there are a lot of players already in the plant-based meat, or rather plant-based protein industry. And in terms of cell-based, in Malaysia, we don't quite have the acceptability and the resources and interest in there yet, right? So in terms of what is feasible, insects seems like the best alternative. There's also spirulina, like you mentioned. That could be something maybe for another company to look into, or another brand coming from M Futures, which is our the official company, to look into. But as far as the messaging for Ento goes, and as far as what is possible, what looks feasible, and what people can understand so far, it looks like insects might be the next thing.
You guys have any other short question that you would like to ask?
Yep, I have one. Actually, after hearing the challenges that Sam faced during like marketing or the startup thing, do ever Sam feeling like want to give up, or still have the encouragement to continue all your effort?
Yeah. Rather than give up, I think what comes into our mind more often is pivoting. So that means we're not abandoning sustainable protein or sustainable foods. We're thinking, where else can we move to in terms of what we're selling, in terms of the product. Because with Kevin and I, we are passionate about sustainability. We're passionate about having a Malaysian company that does a sustainable food alternative or sustainable food option from Malaysia for Malaysia. So rather than stopping Ento, it's more like maybe there's something else that Ento can do.
I see. Thank you, Sam.
I have one last question for Sam. I think this is an appropriate way to wrap up our entire interview.
Yeah.
And the question reads, if you had one message to send out to Malaysians in relation to your company and products that you produce, what would it be?
Maybe that sustainability, or moving to a more sustainable lifestyle, doesn't have to be expensive and doesn't have to be difficult. Maybe all it takes is curiosity and some people that believe in the same thing that you do to get something done. Yeah.
Fantastic, Sam. That was well put. I think that basically sums up our entire session. We exceeded it by 5 minutes. Sorry for that.
Okay. No worries. Yeah.
All right. So,
I also wanted to add, right? I remember there was a question about marketing challenges. Marketing challenges. I can be a bit more specific about that also, if you like.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So when you have you have a product that nobody thinks about or has not heard the story of before, what we realize is that there's a gap. So we have a product that we can sell, and then we have a problem that we're trying to solve, which is CO2 emissions, which is lack of feed, rising prices of living. And then we have the consumer who they're looking for alternatives, but they don't really know about our product yet. And if they know about our product, it is not appealing to them. So there's a gap between what the consumer is looking for and what we can sell. So right now we want to create a product to bridge that gap, which is why we are doing Ento meat. So people have heard of like meat replacement, right? Even in the Chinese community, for a very long time, they have been making fish alternative or meat alternative with tofu, with mushroom, correct? So that is kind of the bridge we're looking for. Ento meat, we think, might be that bridge because people are familiar with burgers. People are familiar with what meat replacement can kind of taste like. So they already have a expectation that is acceptable to them. So when we create a bridge product, that means when the consumer sees it, they think, oh, I know what a burger tastes like. I know what meat replacement or meat alternative meat feels like and tastes like. And if they already have a positive association, a positive feeling about that, they're much more willing to try that product. Yeah. So the challenge would be creating a bridge that is familiar enough that they accept it, that they like it, yet doesn't cost us too much and doesn't involve watering down our product. How much cricket flour can we put in? How much larvae can we put in until the consumer says, oh, that's too much. We don't like that. Finding that balance.
I see. That seems like an actual struggle because I assume adding even a bit more than what the initial balance was would probably put off some consumers and even change the texture and structure of the product. Right? Thank you so much, Sam, for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with us. We genuinely appreciate it. This is not just for our assignment. I think you could have picked any random company for that, but we were all actually interested in your product and the values that this company stands for. And that is why we picked your company. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend it with us here today.
Awesome. Thank you.